They say humiliation has a sound. For me, it was the squeak of my work boots on polished showroom tile, each step echoing louder than it should have as I walked toward the exit of Fletcher Chevrolet. Behind me, Garrett's voice still hung in the air like cheap cologne. "Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes we get confused seniors wandering in." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not loud, just enough to sting.
Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comment section where you're watching from, so I'll know how far my story has gone.
I didn't turn around, didn't dignify it. My daughter Lily married this man 3 years ago, and I smiled through the whole wedding, even though something in his handshake felt hollow. Claire knew it too. She squeezed my hand during the vows, that look in her eye that said, "We'll give him a chance." But Claire wasn't here anymore. I pushed through the glass doors into the thick July heat, my fingers tight around the brim of my Carhartt cap, the one she bought me in Branson on our last trip together. She'd laughed in the Bass Pro Shop, said I looked like a retired rancher. I told her I was retired. She kissed my cheek and said, "Not in your heart, you're not." God, I missed her. Inside, I'd only wanted to look at a Silverado, same model I'd driven for 30 years before the transmission finally gave out. I wasn't there to cause trouble. I wasn't there to embarrass anyone. But Garrett saw me differently. "Sir, I'm going to need you to leave." I'd looked up from the truck's hood, confused. Around us, salespeople froze mid-pitch. A couple near the F-150 display stopped pretending to read the sticker price. "I was just looking, Garrett," I said quietly. "Lily mentioned you might help me find something reliable." His laugh cut me off, sharp, cold. "My wife's mother doesn't speak for me." He stepped closer, voice low, but not low enough. "Look, I don't know what kind of pity play this is, but we don't do charity test drives. This is Fletcher Chevrolet, not a nursing home parking lot." My chest tightened. 2 customers turned fully now, watching like it was a reality show. "Garrett, I have the money. I just wanted—" "What you want doesn't matter." His smile was thin, rehearsed. "You've been freeloading off my wife since Claire died, coming around every Sunday with your little toolbox, fixing cabinets like we owe you something. We don't." I could have told him that toolbox built half of Kansas City, that those little repairs kept their house from falling apart while he worked 60-hour weeks chasing commissions. But I didn't. I just nodded, turned, walked. Behind me, a young salesman snickered. Someone whispered. Garrett's voice rose again, playing to the room. "Actual customers only, folks. We've got standards." Now, sitting in my old Dodge Ram, engine ticking in the heat, I stared at the dealership banner swaying in the wind. Fletcher Chevrolet, trusted since 1987. I'd opened that first location 40 years ago, poured everything into it, built it from a 2-man garage into a name people respected across Missouri. Garrett had no idea. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a contact I hadn't called in months. "Trusted since 1987, huh?" I muttered, thumb hovering over the name. Bill Fletcher, CEO. I pressed dial. The phone rang twice before I let my thumb drop. Not yet. I sat there in the parking lot, windows down, letting the Missouri heat press against my skin. It felt familiar, grounding, like the summers Claire and I spent in that cramped garage on Troost Avenue, back when Fletcher Chevrolet was nothing but a dream and 2 used trucks. We were 32 years old. Claire handled the books on a folding card table while I changed oil and replaced brake pads. We didn't have AC,
Didn't have a showroom, just a hand-painted sign that said Fletcher Auto, honest work, fair price. My best friend Walter had the business sense. I had the wrench. Claire had the heart that kept us both sane when the bank said no for the third time. She told me one night, sitting on the hood of a Chevy Nova we were fixin' for a widow down the street, "They don't see it yet, but they will." She was right. By '87, we'd opened our first official dealership. By '95, there were 3 locations. By 2005, Walter and I had built Fletcher Chevrolet into something Kansas City trusted, a name that meant integrity, not just sales. But somewhere along the way, I got tired. Claire got sick. I sold my shares to Walter in 2018, kept enough to live comfortably, and walked away to take care of the woman who'd built it all with me. She died 16 months later in our bedroom, holding my hand, telling me not to cry because we'd had a hell of a run. I hadn't stepped foot in a Fletcher dealership since. Until today. I thought maybe it was time. Thought maybe I could buy a truck, remember what it felt like to sit behind the wheel of something new. Thought Garrett might even be decent enough to help his wife's father find reliable transportation. I was wrong. My phone buzzed in my lap. I glanced down. The name on the screen made my breath catch. Walter Fletcher. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year, not since Claire's funeral, when he stood beside me at the grave and said, "If you ever need anything, Hunt, anything." I stared at the phone, my pulse ticking up. Walter didn't call unless it mattered. I answered. "Hunter," his voice was gravel and warmth. "I just got a very interesting complaint from my district manager. Something about an incident at the Independence location." My jaw tightened. "Walter, I didn't mean to cause—" "Stop. Tell me what happened, and don't leave anything out." I closed my eyes, and I told him everything.
Walter listened without interrupting. That was always his way. Let a man finish, then respond with clarity. It's what made him a good partner, back when we were building something from nothing. When I finished describing Garrett's performance in the showroom, the silence on the line stretched long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then he sighed. "Hunter, I'm sorry. I had no idea he was treating you like that." His voice carried weight. Not pity, but something sharper. Anger, maybe. "You know he's working under my son now, right? Evan took over operations at Independence last year." I didn't know that. I'd stepped away from the business so completely after Claire died that I stopped tracking locations, promotions, expansions. It all felt like someone else's life. "Evan's a good kid," Walter continued, "but he's young. Trusts his sales team too much. Garrett's been one of his top performers for 8 months. Moves inventory, closes deals, plays the game well." "Plays the game," I repeated bitterly. "That's one way to put it." "Yeah." Walter's tone darkened. "But here's the thing, Hunt. Numbers aren't everything. Character is. And if Garrett's treating family like that in public, I guarantee he's cutting corners elsewhere." I leaned back against the headrest, staring at the dealership through my windshield. Garrett was probably inside right now, laughing with his buddies, riding high on his little power trip. "I sold my shares, Walter," I said quietly, "after Claire got sick. I didn't want the stress, didn't want the meetings or the decisions. I just wanted time with her." "I know," his voice softened, "and I respect the hell out of that choice. But you're still listed as a founding consultant in our corporate charter. You built this company, Hunter. Your name is in the bones of every location we open." I hadn't thought about that in years. "Listen," Walter said, his tone shifting to something more deliberate. "You should come see me tomorrow. Corporate office in Overland Park, 10 a.m. Walter, I don't need you to fight my battles. This isn't about battles. He cut me off, firm but not unkind. This is about something you don't know yet, something involving Garrett's future here. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Not over the phone. I could hear him moving papers on his desk, the faint click of a pen. Just trust me. Come in tomorrow. Wear something comfortable. And Hunter. Yeah. Bring that cap Claire bought you. I blinked, confused. Why? Walter's voice carried the hint of a smile, the kind I remembered from 40 years ago, when we were young and hungry and stupid enough to think we could build an empire. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding. Tomorrow.
I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I found myself in the garage around midnight, standing under the dim fluorescent light that buzzed like a dying wasp. The air smelled like motor oil and sawdust, scents that used to mean purpose. My toolbox sat on the workbench, exactly where I had left it 3 weeks ago after fixing Lily's kitchen cabinet. The same cabinet Garrett said I was freeloading by repairing. I ran my fingers over the worn red metal, tracing the dents and scratches. This box was older than my marriage, older than the dealership. It had been with me since I was 19, working at my uncle's shop in Independence, learning that honest work wasn't just about fixing engines. It was about fixing trust. Claire used to tease me about it. "You love that toolbox more than me," she'd say, grinning. "Not possible," I'd reply, "but it's a close second." I opened the top drawer. Wrenches, sockets, a tape measure with her handwriting on the side. Measure twice, cut once, love always. My throat tightened. Beneath the second tray, I found something I'd forgotten was there. A folded piece of yellow legal paper, edges soft with age. I pulled it out carefully, recognizing Claire's looping cursive before I even opened it. It was dated April 2019, a year before she died. Hunter, I know you're tired. I know you think stepping away means peace, and maybe it does, but don't confuse peace with silence. You built something beautiful, not just the dealership. You, your integrity, your hands, your heart. If the day ever comes when someone tries to erase that, don't let them. Never let pride silence what's rightfully yours. All my love, C. I read it twice, then a third time. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known I'd need this. I folded the letter carefully and set it on the bench beside a framed photo of us from 1985, standing in front of that first garage on Troost Avenue, her arm around my waist, both of us covered in grease and grinning like idiots. We were so young, so hungry, so sure we could make something that mattered. And we did. Garrett didn't get to take that from me. Not with his smirk, not with his cruelty, not with his assumption that I was just some washed-up old man wandering into his territory. I picked up the photo, staring into Claire's eyes. I walked away because I thought it was over, thought I was done building, done fighting. Her smile looked back at me, frozen in time, but somehow still alive. I set the frame down gently and reached for my Carhartt cap on the hook above the bench, the one she bought me in Branson, the one I'd clutched today when Garrett humiliated me. I put it on. All right, Claire. One last ride. Tomorrow, I'd walk into Walter's office, and Garrett would finally learn who he'd kicked out of that showroom.
Fletcher Chevrolet corporate headquarters didn't exist when I left. Back then, corporate meant Walter's dining room table and a fax machine that jammed every third page. Now, standing in front of a 6-story glass building in Overland Park, I felt like I'd time-traveled into someone else's empire. The lobby was all marble and chrome, minimalist furniture, a waterfall feature against the back wall, and a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad. I approached the desk, cap in hand. "Morning. I'm here to see Walter Fletcher." She didn't look up from her computer. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes, ma'am. 10 o'clock. Name's Hunter." "Last name?" I hesitated. "Fletcher." That got her attention. Her eyes flicked up, scanning me like I was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Work boots, jeans, a button-down I'd ironed myself this morning. "Fletcher," she repeated slowly. "Yes, ma'am." She typed something, frowned, then picked up the phone. "Hi, this is reception. There's a gentleman here claiming he has a 10 o'clock with Mr. Fletcher." A pause. "His name is—" "Yes, Fletcher." Another pause. Her expression shifted. "Oh, yes, right away." She hung up and stood so fast her chair rolled back. "Mr. Fletcher, I apologize. Please follow me." The shift in her tone was immediate. Clinical politeness replaced with something edging toward nervousness. We rode the elevator to the 6th floor in silence. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to solve an equation she'd been given wrong variables for. When the doors opened, Walter was already waiting in the hallway. He looked older, more gray in his beard, deeper lines around his eyes, but his smile was the same. "Hunter." He crossed the space in 3 strides and pulled me into a hug that smelled like coffee and Old Spice. "Damn, it's good to see you." "You too, Walt." He turned to the receptionist. "Thanks, Brianna. I've got it from here." She nodded and disappeared into the elevator, still looking confused. Walter led me into his office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Kansas City skyline. Framed photos lined the walls. And there, near his desk, was a picture I recognized instantly. The 3 of us. 1987. Opening day of the first official Fletcher Chevrolet location. Me, Walter, and Claire holding a pair of oversized scissors in front of a red ribbon. "I look at that every morning," Walter said quietly, following my gaze. "Reminds me why we did this." I swallowed hard. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. "Sit, please." I did. Walter settled into his own chair, then pulled a manila folder from a drawer and slid it across the polished wood surface. "Open it." I hesitated, then lifted the cover. Inside was a copy of a document I hadn't seen in 7 years, my original ownership contract, dated 1987. Clauses about profit sharing, expansion rights, decision-making authority. But there, on page 9, highlighted in yellow, was a section I'd completely forgotten. Buyback Clause, Section 12.4. In the event of voluntary share divestment, the original founding partner retains the right to repurchase shares at market value within 10 years of sale, provided mutual agreement with current ownership. My hands went still. "You sold in 2018. It's 2025, Walter said softly. "You've still got time, Hunt, if you want it back." I stared at the highlighted text until the words blurred. "I don't understand," I said finally. "You're saying I can just buy back in?" Walter leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "Not exactly. Read the subsection." I found it, smaller print beneath the main clause. Section 12.4b. Should the company's public reputation or ethical standing be materially compromised due to documented misconduct by management or staff, the original founding partner may reclaim partial ownership, up to 25%, without financial exchange, contingent on board review and approval. I read it 3 times. Walter, this is a safeguard, he finished. Something our lawyer suggested back in '91 after that scandal with the Wichita location. Remember? That manager who was flipping titles? I did. We'd nearly lost everything. We added that clause to protect the brand, to make sure that if someone dragged Fletcher's name through the mud, the people who built it could step back in and fix it. My pulse quickened. And you think Garrett qualifies? Walter opened a second folder, this one much thicker. He turned it toward me. Inside were printed emails, customer complaints, internal HR reports. I scanned the top page. Complaint log, Independence location. Customer alleges high-pressure sales tactics and misleading financing terms. Elderly buyer claims salesman G. Morrison misrepresented warranty coverage. 3 separate complaints regarding disrespectful treatment of walk-in customers. Garrett's name appeared on 11 of the 15 reports. Jesus, I muttered. It gets worse. Walter flipped to a flagged page. 2 weeks ago, a woman filed a formal complaint with the Better Business Bureau. Said Garrett sold her a truck with undisclosed frame damage. When she came back to confront him, he told her she should have read the fine print and kicked her out of the lot. My jaw tightened. Evan doesn't see it yet, Walter said. He looks at Garrett's sales numbers and thinks he's got a star. But numbers don't mean a damn thing if we lose trust. I stared at the documents, my mind racing. Fletcher Chevrolet was built on one principle: honest work, fair price. That's what you and Claire stood for. That's what this company is supposed to mean. I thought about yesterday, standing in that showroom, humiliated in front of strangers, told I didn't belong in a place I'd built from nothing. What are you asking me to do, Walt? He met my eyes. I'm asking if you want to come back, not as a silent partner, as someone with real authority, someone who can walk into that Independence location and remind people what Fletcher actually stands for. I closed the folder slowly. Outside the window, the city stretched out beneath us, highways and buildings and lives moving forward. Claire's words echoed in my head. Never let pride silence what's rightfully yours. I looked up at Walter. Then maybe it's time that branch got some attention. I went back to the Independence dealership 3 days later. This time, I wasn't there to buy a truck. Walter had given me one instruction: watch, listen, document. So I did. I parked across the street at a Starbucks, sipped burnt coffee, and observed the showroom through the window. Garrett moved through the floor like he owned it. Loud laugh, firm handshakes, that performative confidence salesmen wear like cologne. But I wasn't watching him yet. I was watching everyone else. Around 2 p.m., I walked back in. Different shirt, baseball cap pulled low. Just another potential customer browsing the lot. A young guy approached me almost immediately. Mid-20s, clean-cut, name tag that read Eli Barker. His smile was genuine, not rehearsed. "Good afternoon, sir. Anything I can help you find today?" Just looking. Maybe something reliable. Nothing fancy." "Well, you came to the right place." He gestured toward a row of Silverados. "These are solid. What's your budget looking like?" I appreciated that he asked instead of assumed. We talked for 20 minutes. He was patient, knowledgeable, didn't push.
Reminded me of the kind of salesman I used to hire back in the day, the ones who actually cared about matching people with the right vehicle, not just closing deals. Then Garrett's voice cut across the showroom. "Eli, stop wasting time on tire kickers and help me pull the Tahoe paperwork." Eli's jaw tightened, but he kept his smile. "Excuse me, 1 second, sir." He walked over to Garrett, who didn't bother lowering his voice. "That guy's been here twice this week. If he hasn't bought yet, he's not going to. Move on." He seems serious. "I don't care. We've got quotas. Focus on real buyers." Eli nodded stiffly and returned to me, apologetic. "Sorry about that. Let me grab some brochures for you." I watched Garrett stride toward an older couple near the F-150 display. Within minutes, his tone shifted, syrupy sweet, over-the-top enthusiasm. The husband looked uncomfortable. The wife kept glancing at the exit. Eli came back with the brochures, but his expression had changed. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "You were here a few days ago, weren't you, when Garrett kicked someone out?" I froze. He glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. "I thought I recognized you. That was messed up, man. I'm sorry." "It's fine," I said, though it wasn't. "It's not. Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but Garrett's been on thin ice with a lot of us. He treats customers like ATMs and staff like servants. I've seen 3 people quit in the last 2 months because of him." I studied him carefully. "Why are you still here?" "Because I need the job," he shrugged, "and because someone's got to look out for the people he steamrolls." Something clicked. "Eli," I said slowly, "if I asked you to keep your eyes open, document things Garrett says or does, would you?" His eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "Someone who used to care about this place." I pulled a business card from my wallet, one of my old ones, faded but still legible. Hunter Fletcher, founding partner. Eli's face went pale. "You're..." "Quiet." I slipped the card into his hand. "Just watch. If he steps out of line, text me. Photos, recordings, whatever you've got." Eli nodded, pocketing the card. Then his expression shifted, somewhere between nervousness and anger. "Mr. Hunter, you're not going to believe what he said about you to a client yesterday." My chest tightened. "What did he say?" Eli pulled out his phone. I recorded it. Eli hit play. The audio was muffled, recorded from a pocket maybe, but Garrett's voice came through clear enough. "Yeah, the old guy who got kicked out, that was my father-in-law. Pathetic, right?" A customer's laugh. "Wait, seriously?" "Dead serious. Guy used to be somebody, I guess, back in the Stone Age. But now, he's just another washed-up boomer living off his dead wife's memory. Comes around acting like he built this place." My hands clenched. "Didn't he, though?" the customer asked. "I thought I saw something about a Fletcher family legacy." "Marketing," Garrett cut him off. "Corporate loves that nostalgic crap. Makes people feel good about buying from us. But between you and me, Hunter Fletcher hasn't been relevant in a decade. The guy who really runs this company is Walter, and Walter trusts people like me, closers who move metal, not old men who cry about the good old days." Another laugh from the customer. "Still," the guy said, "kicking out your wife's dad, that's cold, man." Garrett's voice dropped, almost conspiratorial. "Look, I'm doing him a favor. He needs to accept that his time is over. Fletcher Chevrolet doesn't belong to him anymore. It belongs to people who know how to win." The recording ended. I stood there, staring at Eli's phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. "There's more," Eli said quietly. He scrolled through his phone. "Last week, a lady came in looking at a used Malibu. Garrett told her it had a clean title. I ran the VIN after she left. It'd been in a flood, totaled in Houston 2 years ago." He showed me the report. Salvage title, frame damage, airbag deployment. "Did she buy it?" I asked, my voice tight. "No, I warned her off before she signed. Eli's jaw set. But Garrett found out, wrote me up for undermining a sale. I thought about Claire, about the late nights she spent balancing books, making sure every customer got what they paid for, about the promise we'd made to each other, build something people can trust. Garrett was burning that trust to the ground. I said, "Send me everything." I spent the next 2 days in my garage compiling it all. Eli's recordings, the customer complaints Walter had given me, screenshots of the salvage title Garrett tried to bury, emails from former staff members who'd quit after being berated in front of customers. 15 pages, 20 audio clips, 32 documented incidents. On the final page, I included a photograph. Me and Claire, standing in front of that first garage on Troost Avenue, smiling like we'd just won the lottery. Beneath it, I typed, "This is what Fletcher Chevrolet was built on: honesty, integrity, trust. This is what we're losing." I saved the file, attached it to an email, and typed Walter's address into the recipient line. My cursor hovered over send for a long moment. Claire's voice echoed in my head. "Never let pride silence what's rightfully yours." I typed a subject line. "Let's clean our house." Then I hit send. The email disappeared into the void, and I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. Somewhere across town, Garrett was probably closing another deal, laughing with another customer, thinking he was untouchable. He had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed. A text from Walter. "Got it. Board meeting Friday. Be there." I set the phone down and looked up at Claire's picture on the wall. "All right, baby. Let's finish what we started."
Friday morning hit the Independence dealership like a cold front. I wasn't there yet, not at first, but Eli texted me at 9:47 a.m. "Walter just walked in with 2 suits. Garrett looks like he's gonna puke." I smiled. I'd chosen my outfit carefully that morning. Navy blazer, pressed khakis. The Carhartt cap stayed home. Today wasn't about nostalgia. It was about authority. Claire's wedding ring hung on a chain beneath my shirt, resting against my chest. For courage, I thought. I arrived at 10:15. The parking lot was tense, salespeople standing outside in clusters, smoking, whispering. Through the showroom windows I could see Walter and 2 corporate auditors moving through the floor with clipboards, inspecting paperwork, pulling files. Garrett trailed behind them like a dog on a leash, his smile strained, his movements too quick. I walked in through the main entrance. The showroom went quiet. Eli spotted me first. His eyes widened. Then he gave a small nod, half greeting, half warning. I kept my expression neutral and moved toward the center of the floor, folder tucked under my arm. Walter looked up from a stack of contracts and locked eyes with me across the room. He didn't smile, didn't acknowledge me, just a slight tilt of his head. Wait. Garrett was too busy trying to charm one of the auditors to notice. "And as you can see, our customer satisfaction metrics have been consistently strong. We prioritize transparency and—" "Mr. Morrison," Walter interrupted, voice flat, "how do you explain 3 separate BBB complaints filed against you in the last 60 days? Garrett froze. Those were misunderstandings, customers who didn't fully read their contracts, or salespeople who didn't fully disclose the terms. Garrett's tone was surgical. Garrett's face flushed. "Sir, I follow every protocol." "Do you?" Walter gestured to one of the auditors who handed him a file. "Because according to this, you sold a flood-damaged Malibu to a single mother last month, salvage title, never disclosed. That sale didn't go through because one of your colleagues stopped it.
Then you wrote him up for it." The room was dead silent now. Every salesperson, every manager, every customer still lingering, they were all watching. Garrett's eyes darted around, searching for an exit that didn't exist. "I want to be very clear," Walter said, his voice carrying across the showroom. Fletcher Chevrolet was not built on shortcuts. It was not built on deception. It was built on integrity. He turned, scanning the crowd, and the man who built it is standing right here. Walter's gaze landed on me. Every head turned. I stepped forward, folder in hand, my boots echoing on the tile. Garrett's face went white. "Everyone," Walter said, his voice steady and deliberate, "meet Hunter Fletcher, founding partner, the man who opened the first Fletcher dealership in 1987, the man whose name is on this building." Silence. Then, slowly, Eli started clapping. One of the older salespeople joined him, then another, then the receptionist. Within seconds, the entire showroom was applauding. Garrett stood frozen, his mouth half open, his hands limp at his sides. I walked past him without a word and stood beside Walter. "Thank you," I said quietly to the room. Then I turned to Garrett. "We need to talk." His voice cracked. "Hunter, Not here." I glanced at Walter. "Conference room?" Walter nodded. "After you."
The conference room had glass walls. That wasn't an accident. Walter positioned us deliberately. Garrett seated across from me, and Walter, the two corporate auditors flanking the table. And beyond the glass, the entire showroom had a perfect view. Garrett's leg bounced under the table. His hands fidgeted with a pen he wasn't writing with. Walter opened the folder I'd given him and slid the first document across the table. 15 customer complaints, all within 6 months, all naming you specifically. Garrett glanced down but didn't touch the paper. "Some people just can't be satisfied." Walter interrupted, reading from the page. "Mrs. Dolores Chen, 73 years old, widow. You sold her an extended warranty she didn't need and told her it was mandatory for financing approval." Garrett's jaw tightened. "That's standard." "It's fraud." Walter's voice didn't rise, but it cut like a blade. "She paid $4,000 for coverage her manufacturer warranty already included." He slid another page forward. "Vincent Morales. Sold him a truck with undisclosed frame damage. When he came back to complain, you told him he should have gotten an independent inspection. That's on him. No, that's on you. You knew the VIN history. You buried it." Garrett opened his mouth, then closed it. Walter pulled out his phone, set it on the table, and hit play. Garrett's voice filled the room. "The old guy who got kicked out? That was my father-in-law. Pathetic, right? Guy used to be somebody, I guess, back in the Stone Age. But now, he's just another washed-up boomer living off his dead wife's memory." I watched him. Didn't speak, just watched. The recording continued. "Hunter Fletcher hasn't been relevant in a decade. The guy who really runs this company is Walter. And Walter trusts people like me." Walter stopped the playback. Outside the glass, I could see staff members standing still, staring. Eli had his arms crossed, shaking his head. "That's not—" Garrett started. "I was just—" "Mocking a man who built everything you're standing on. The same man whose daughter you married. The same man who came into this dealership hoping for basic decency." His hands were shaking now. Walter slid a final document across the table. "A termination letter. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending a full investigation. If the claims hold, and they will, you'll be terminated. We'll also be reporting the fraudulent sales to the State Attorney General's office." Garrett stared at the letter like it might catch fire. "You can't— Evan won't let you—" "Evan already signed off," Walter said flatly.
He saw the evidence. He agreed. Garrett turned to me, desperation flashing in his eyes. "Please, Hunter, I didn't mean... Lily deserves better than a man who humiliates her father in public and scams elderly customers for commission." My voice didn't shake, didn't rise. "You could have had a family, Garrett. People who loved you. People who would have stood by you." I leaned forward slightly. "Instead, you chose an audience. You chose applause from strangers who'll forget your name the second you stop performing." His face crumpled. I stood, buttoning my blazer. "I hope it was worth it." Walter stood as well, gesturing to the auditors. "Escort Mr. Morrison out. Security will handle his personal belongings." Garrett stumbled to his feet, his eyes wet, his mouth working soundlessly. As they led him toward the door, Walter turned to me. "Hunter, I'd like to formally offer you a position on Fletcher Chevrolet's advisory board. Full voting rights, active role in company culture and ethics oversight." I looked out at the showroom, at Eli, at the staff, at the customers still watching. Then I looked back at Walter. "I accept."
After the auditors escorted Garrett out, the showroom exhaled. People returned to their desks, but the energy had shifted, lighter somehow, like a storm had passed and left clean air behind. Walter excused himself to make calls. I stayed. Eli approached first, hand extended. "Mr. Fletcher, I just want to say thank you for caring enough to come back." I shook his hand. "Thank you for having the guts to document the truth. That took courage." His face flushed with pride. "I've been here 2 years. This is the first time it's felt like the right place to work." Others came forward. Salespeople, mechanics, even the receptionist who dismissed me that first day in the corporate office. "I'm sorry I didn't recognize you," she said quietly. "I should have known." "It's all right," I told her. "I've been gone a long time." An older man in coveralls, grease under his nails, a Fletcher Chevrolet patch on his chest, stepped out from the service bay. His face creased into a grin. "Hunter Fletcher, I'll be damned." I knew him instantly. "Reggie?" "In the flesh," he laughed, pulling me into a rough hug. "Been working your bay since '92. Thought you'd retired for good." I thought so too. He stepped back, studying me. "It's good to see you, man. The place hasn't felt the same without people who actually give a damn." I looked around the showroom, past the sleek cars and modern displays, and noticed something that made my chest tighten. Near the service entrance, half hidden behind a potted plant, was an old wooden sign. Faded, cracked along one edge. It read, "Integrity First." Claire had painted that sign in 1989. We'd hung it in every location we opened. "That's been broken for months," Reggie said, following my gaze. "Garrett said it was off-brand. Wanted it tossed." I walked over and lifted it carefully, running my thumb along the chipped letters. "Not anymore," I said. Reggie grinned. "I've got wood stain and brushes in the back. Want some help?" "Yeah, I like that." We spent the next hour in the service bay, sanding and refinishing the sign. Reggie told stories about the old days, customers we'd helped, deals we'd closed, mistakes we'd learned from. It felt like hum. By the time we finished, the sign looked new again. We carried it back into the showroom and mounted it above the main desk, where everyone, staff and customers, would see it. Integrity first. People stopped to watch. A few applauded. I stepped back, staring at those 2 words, and felt Claire standing beside me. "We did it, baby. We're still here." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Lily, mobile. My daughter. My chest tightened. I hadn't spoken to her since the wedding 3 years ago. Hadn't told her what Garrett did. Hadn't wanted to put her in the middle. But now? The phone buzzed again. I answered. "Dad?" Her voice was small, fragile.
We met at a coffee shop off Highway 40, neutral ground, away from the dealership, away from Garrett. Lily sat across from me, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged at the edges. She looked like her mother when she was upset. Same tight jaw, same way of biting her lower lip. "I didn't know," she said before I could speak. "About the customers, about the fraud, about what he said about you." I stayed quiet, letting her finish. "Walter called me this morning, played me the recording." Her voice cracked. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I knew he could be difficult, but I didn't think—" "You didn't want to see it," I said gently. "That's different." She looked up, tears spilling over. I should have asked more questions. Should have paid attention when you stopped coming around." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Lily, you're not responsible for his choices." "But I defended him. When you didn't come to Christmas last year, he said it was because you were holding a grudge, and I believed him. I took his side." That stung, but I understood. "He was your husband," I said. "You loved him. There's no shame in that." "There is when he treats my father like garbage." She pulled her hand back, wiping her eyes. "Mom would have seen through him in 5 minutes. I don't know how I missed it." I smiled sadly. "Your mom saw the good in people. Sometimes too much. But she also taught you something else. How to be strong when it matters." Lily looked at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. "She'd want you to stand up for yourself. Not just for me, for you. Don't let anyone, husband, friend, boss, make you feel small. You're worth more than that." She nodded, tears still falling. "I'm leaving him," she whispered. "I already talked to a lawyer." Relief washed over me. "Good." "I'm scared, Dad." "I know. But you're Claire's daughter. You've got more strength in you than you realize." She laughed through the tears. "She used to say that." "Because it's true." We sat in silence for a moment, the hum of the coffee shop filling the space between us. "Are you mad at me?" she asked quietly. "No, sweetheart, I was never mad at you." She exhaled, shoulders sagging with relief. "I love you, Dad. I love you too." That night I sat in my garage, staring at Claire's photo on the workbench. That one from 1985, both of us grinning in front of that first garage. I thought about everything that had happened. Garrett's humiliation, the recordings, the board meeting, Lily's tears. And I thought about the sign we'd restored. Integrity first. Claire had always believed in second chances, in fighting for what mattered, in never letting cruelty win. I traced my finger along the frame. "You'd be proud, honey," I whispered. The photo smiled back at me, frozen in time, but somehow still alive. And for the first time in months, I felt whole.
3 months later, Fletcher Chevrolet Independence held a grand reopening. New management, new training programs, new standards, all built around the values Claire and I had laid down 40 years ago. Walter insisted I be there, not as a guest, as the guest of honor. The parking lot was packed. Staff, customers, local media, even the mayor. A banner stretched across the entrance, Integrity First, celebrating 40 years of Fletcher Chevrolet. I stood near the podium, wearing the same navy blazer from that Friday morning, Claire's ring still hanging beneath my shirt. Eli found me before the ceremony started. He'd been promoted to sales manager, youngest in company history. "Nervous?" he asked, grinning. "Terrified," I admitted. "You'll do great." He clapped my shoulder. "You always do." As the crowd gathered, I noticed a figure standing at the edge of the lot, loading boxes into a sedan. Garrett. He looked smaller somehow, thinner. His movements were mechanical, defeated. Our eyes met across the distance. He didn't wave, didn't sneer, just gave a small, bitter nod. Acknowledgement, maybe, or surrender. Then he got in his car and drove away. I watched him disappear down the highway, feeling something unexpected settle in my chest. Not satisfaction, not triumph, just closure. Walter stepped up to the microphone, his voice booming across the lot. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Fletcher Chevrolet has always been more than a business. It's a promise. A promise that when you walk through our doors, you'll be treated with honesty, respect, and dignity." He gestured toward me. "And no one embodies that promise more than the man who built it, Hunter Fletcher." Applause erupted. I walked to the podium, my hands trembling slightly, and looked out at the crowd. Faces I knew, faces I didn't. All of them waiting. I took a breath. 40 years ago, my wife Claire and I opened a garage with 2 trucks and a dream. We didn't have much, but we had something more important. Integrity. The crowd quieted. Integrity isn't flashy. It doesn't close deals faster or boost quarterly profits. But it's the foundation everything else is built on. And when you lose it, you lose everything. I paused, scanning the faces. This company lost its way for a while. But today, we're reclaiming it. Not just for me. For every person who walks through these doors looking for honesty in a world that doesn't always give it. The applause was louder this time. I stepped away from the microphone and walked toward the showroom, where a brand new Silverado sat on display, polished, gleaming, perfect. I opened the door, reached into my jacket, and pulled out Claire's Carhartt cap. I placed it gently on the dashboard. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden light across the lot. I stood there, one hand resting on the truck, and whispered, "We did it, baby. We made it home." Behind me, the crowd cheered. But all I heard was her voice, soft, warm, alive. Some roads don't lead you back. They lead you home. So here's my question for you. Was I right to handle it this way? Tell me in the comments below, what would you have done in my position? If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more real-life tales, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Because trust me, there's so much more on this channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next life story.